Namaste and welcome everyone. Oh, good. Here we are together again. So nice to be here with you, everybody. Namaste. We're going to be dealing with episode 10 from Aware in the World of Sleep, a principled way for living spiritually. And episode 10 is chapter 8 in the book, not to confuse you with all these numbers. I'll add another. This chapter deals with principle 6. Remembering to laugh at the idea of separation brings joy into celebrating the present. Here's a quote from Khalil Gibran to start this chapter. Keep me from the wisdom which does not cry, the philosophy which does not laugh, and the greatness which does not bow before children. The ultimate cure. One could easily respond to the foregoing principles by thinking they're just too much to take on. Truth be known, in a word, living spiritually is simple. By giving ourselves daily only to becoming and staying aware of the voice that speaks in silence, just that, only that, we express that resonance as our only commitment to life. What keeps us from moving right out from the old habits into the new is the fear of what we might lose or become. Plus, we think we have to undo all the past before we can fully live the truth of being. Not so. This principle provides yet another vehicle that can both hasten our journey to spiritual fruition and relieve us of any burden in doing so. As a regularized way of dealing with any remnants of past error, let's look at Gibran's poetic commitment to spiritual living by translating it as we have scripture symbolically. Here's just one way to see it. You may have differing views that should be considered. This one is only to prime the creative juices for you. Keep me from the wisdom which does not cry, says Gibran. It speaks to the depth of truth that cries out to us, that beckons us to awareness and its expression. It is in the depths of wisdom where the clearly profound pearls of great price are born, that cry out to us for what? For completion. The philosophy which does not laugh speaks to the way we usually treat what life brings to us and how we think about ourselves in that context. We take it, that is, what life brings us, and ourselves, all too seriously. We give circumstances as well as our part in them way too much weight. The gravity of most circumstances and situations appears to be more than it really is, because when in ego consciousness we are self-absorbed. The world is not about us. It's only about delivering to the world the truth heard in our hearts. Wisdom's deliverance opens us to the joy we find when we laugh at how seriously we've taken ourselves instead. And the greatness which does not bow before children. In the context of ego consciousness, greatness is usually taught to come from keen intellect or special talent and demonstrated in some kind of grand achievement. The greatness of which Gibran speaks is the greatness that bows in absolute humility to that which parents wisdom into being. Born out of innocence like children, each sacred idea is an inspirational child born of truth and is to be expressed in that image and likeness. Now, that's quite different than reading it literally. We have dealt with most of the elements of this marvelous testimony to truth at great length. One that remains is to consider the place of laughter in living spiritually. Really, you say? Really, I say. What strikes me as strange about our current place in history is that laughter seems to be largely lacking. Fear has taken its place, rendering our ways far too somber to my liking, and perhaps for yours as well. The heaviness of angst makes for an unbalanced lifestyle, where frowns replace grins of inner knowing. It's almost gotten to the point where people do not even understand basic humor or irony as a way to release one from being overly serious about what surrounds and fills up these days. We seem to have forgotten to laugh, primarily at how seriously we have taken ourselves, as well as the false idea of separation or duality that we have taken to be true. Indeed, we are heavily weighed down with the inconsequential and irrelevant. Another thing strikes me as strange is that nowhere, check it, nowhere in the Bible is there any direct reference to Jesus laughing. I would be willing to bet the family farm, if I had one, that Jesus must have enjoyed laughter immensely. Matter of fact, I'll bet he created it immensely. My guess is that he used humor and irony a great deal as he interacted with the Pharisees as well as his other daily activities. He surely must have laughed, at least inwardly, at the foolishness he encountered along his way. And he certainly did not take himself too seriously. Jesus bowed to the wisdom found by regularly expressing humility and enjoying every doggone bit of it. Perhaps the writers of the Bible lived in times similar to our own. They certainly appear to have taken ego consciousness and the ways of separation from God or their highest selves way too seriously. All we need to return to our further clarification at this point is to remind ourselves that all but the first chapter of Genesis, plus Jesus' teaching, represents the ego's view of God and life. Is it any wonder then that we find no reference to laughter in the Scripture? When buried in feelings of separation, guilt, and fear, there is not much to laugh at. One thing we know for sure: by living the two-thirds in silence, we are afforded all the gifts of the kingdom, which do, not incidentally, include laughter. So what's the point? The point is that when we take ourselves too seriously, it means we take everything that happens in the context of self-importance. We put ourselves at the center of the universe. To take whatever is said to or about us as if it were really true, or we defend against what appears to be false. The fact of the matter is that nothing said or done outside of us is truth about us in any way. The only truth is what resonates as that in the silence wisdom speaks. The wisdom needs no defense. All else is but a very bad mistranslation. So what anyone says about us or how we are to express what we really are is none of our business. When someone says about us is merely a reflection of how they see themselves and the world around them, but certainly not us. They don't know us well enough, certainly. Such proclamations are only about their perception of us and not really about us at all. We can dismiss these simply by remembering not to take them seriously. Laughter is a good way to dismiss such illusions and set them free, along with the tension that has held them in place. The only way another's view of us can be the truth is when we are recognized for the individualization of the I we each are. And unless their acknowledgement comes from the I they are, it is still nothing but a projection of their perception. So we might well laugh at it, for the perpetrations of outer perceptions are humorous, even hilarious, when compared to inner truth. It's like saying we have a plan derived out of evil consciousness. First of all, there's no such thing that can be filled in any real way. Second, the only real design is to listen, moment to moment, for each direction toward fulfillment. Only wisdom's truth speaks that language, not our ego consciousness. In another sense, because most of us spend considerable time dealing with memories of the past or dreams of the future, we have little left that we can invest being in the present, the only place where truth, real truth, can be found. Ever wonder where the expression comes from that we use only 10% of our brain? One answer I have heard for this is that we use the other 90% dealing with gravity. Literally, such an explanation does not make a lot of sense. As a metaphor, however, it does make sense. we use 90% of our energy dealing with our perception of the gravity of day-to-day situations, when most, if not all, situations are only illusions thought to be true. Because we take such ego-conscious renderings seriously, we expend considerable energy trying to figure them out or deciding how to deal with them. To take them seriously is to perpetuate missing the mark of spiritual reality. Let us look carefully at what is being said here. Is anything from the past real in this present moment? Is anything you hope for or fear repeating itself in the future real right now? Of course not. Well then, why do we spend so much energy contemplating either the past or the future? Why do we give past or future events the power they do not, in and of themselves, have? Do any of the memories, glad or sad, or anything in between for that matter, have any real meaning? No, they do not. And yet we carry them along as though they still do. Now, as more advanced spiritual beings, we know, G-N-O-W, we can see things from a different perspective, and I know many, if not all of you, do. The admonition here is to take none of our memories seriously, for they are no more than illusions. No wonder we fail to see many smiles or much laughter. Our faces and moods are too heavily burdened by the weight of seriousness we have placed on self-created mythology. The fact of the matter is that the past is history and the future is mystery. The present is now. So why not take only now seriously and remember to laugh at the rest, while joy comes into our hearts by expressing the infinite array of gems from within. The release. By artfully releasing illusions through laughter, we open the way for truth to show its way. Pretty simple. The more we engage with wisdom instead of illusion, the more tension is released from our way of viewing life and living it. The more tension is released, the freer we feel to be true to ourselves. Thus, in this newfound bed of freedom to simply be, we get to demonstrate the gifts of the kingdom as we become aware of them. It is in this conscious awareness of all the gifts of wisdom that we find the joy we innately are. This truth replaces the erroneous idea that we must work hard to find joy without, and it defines free will. The same can be said for all the other attributes of divinity. It is not that we must strive to find or achieve them, but that we are to express all we already are, which is the fullness of the infinitude divinity represents. At last, we find that we are indeed perfect even as God is perfect, or our highest self is perfect. This is what renders us complete, even if others are complete, even if they don't see it for themselves. Thus, we do not need to find someone or something outside ourselves to complete us. Rather, we share our completeness without any need to change anyone or anything, and free all to be only what they are now. What a life-changing experience this is. Try it. You will like it. Of that I am sure. As a way to prime your laughter pump, you might try renting a few really funny movies and viewing them in the privacy of your own space. Do not anticipate or have any expectations, though. Those are the ego's way. I've got to do this. I must get that. Simply let your real self be without judgment of any kind. You'll be amazed at the sense of humor lodged within you. I've been there, done that, and it has reaped great rewards. Opening myself to humor has gone so far that I have learned to let myself be spontaneous with it. Sometimes it seems that it just cannot wait to burst out of me. I have never thought of myself as particularly funny until I let myself be funny, and my sense of humor was verified by some friends. It's amazing that we find out about our real selves when we finally let ourselves simply be, centered in truth. Reading the comic section of the newspaper can also help. So can viewing some of the comedy on television. All may not suit you, which is fine. It all doesn't suit me. The only purpose is to open yourself up to the potential for laughter so you can use it and release day-to-day tension. Believe me, you will soon view much of what you formerly would have taken seriously in a much lighter way. When you do, you will easily be able to laugh at what has no real meaning for you. It is at this point that you will be living in the now and enjoying every moment of it, and others will be highly encouraged to follow suit. Yes, the gift we demonstrate openly becomes one for more universal purpose in a hurry. Laughter, like happiness, is contagious, and when we remember to laugh, we are freed to live what we are truly created to be. Then what we inherently know to be the truth also comes to light. Well, what do you think about that? We just finished episode 10 in about 15 to 16 minutes. Wow, that's a record for sure, an absolute record. Nice. So let's see what we can find here. Okay, you know that between these sessions, I like to throw out a little post that I've seen somewhere to think about, but mostly to follow up on what we've dealt with each week with just a little bit of something, a nugget to chew on. This one is author unknown, and it's entitled, I Choose. I choose to live by choice, not chance. To be motivated, not manipulated. To be useful, but not used. To make changes, not excuses. To excel, not compete. I choose self-esteem, not self-pity. I choose to listen to my inner voice, not to the random opinions of others. Oh, that last part is so sweet. So, between now and then, you might want to re-listen to this segment that we've shared today. You might want to go over this last little nugget just to see how you're doing in this regard. It has to be your truth, after all, not somebody else's truth. We're learning to listen to our own, after all. Well, between now and next week, I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you are happy and whole and well, really, really well. And next week we'll be dealing with Principle 7. I am my brother's brother, not my brother's keeper. That's a little bit testy to some. So we'll look forward to chewing on that one next week. Until then, my dear friends, namaste. I love you.